A high turnout is being reported in France, where millions have voted in snap parliamentary elections that could bring great uncertainty to the nation and to Europe. For the first time, the far-right National Rally Party of Marine Le Pen has a chance to become the largest in a vote that could see support for President Emmanuel Macron's centrist bloc dwindle. Following this developing situation, we have two correspondents covering this election for us. In a moment, we'll go live to Jonah Hull at the Place de République in the centre of Paris. But first, let's hear from Bernard Smith, who's at the National Rally headquarters as results come in. Bernard, joining us from Paris. Bernard, talk us through. We're already starting to see some initial results coming in. What do they reveal?
Well, the exit polls have just been published in the last minute, and they put the National Rally ahead. 34% share of the vote. Second, the Popular Front, this alliance of left-wing, centre-left and far-left parties at 28.1%. And Macron's party, is the more centrist party, at 20.3%. So it is a significant result for the far-right National Rally. It would give them in Parliament about 240 to 270 seats. It doesn't give them an overall majority. They need 289 for that. But going into the second round, this is a fairly good indication of how the voting might pan out. There's a long way to go between now and then. There'll be a lot of political jockeying for position. Will other parties try and remove candidates from some constituencies to stop the National Rally getting through? This is all to be debated and all to play for in the next week. But the headline really is that over 34% of the French electorate have bought the far-right National Rally's pitch. And it's a pitch to be tough on immigration, tough on Islam, but also to cut taxes, to cut VAT on fuel from 20% to 5%. And it's also about national preference. Immigration was one of the main concerns, is one of the main concerns of French voters, and the National Rally's policies are to give preference, for example, to French citizens over other French residents for social housing, for student accommodation, even though those other French residents will pay the same taxes as French citizens. It wants to stop dual citizens having what they call sensitive jobs, and it wants to end birthright citizenship in France, something that's been around for more than 200 years. So 34% of the French population has gone for that. There's a work to be done. Macron's big gamble where there would be some sort of what they've called in the past a Republican front that would stop the advance of the National Rally. But just to briefly tell you that this party, founded in 1972 as the National Front, led by Jean-Marie Le Pen, had members of the Waffen-SS, controlled by the Nazis in it. It's been detoxified by its leader, Marine Le Pen, his youngest daughter, in the last 10 years, and she has brought this party into the political mainstream, and this we're beginning to see the fruits of her labours.
And Bernard, as you've been speaking, our audience has been looking at pictures. It certainly looks like quite a spirited scene there at the National Rally headquarters. What does this result mean for them? How significant is this?
They'll be very pleased. This is what the exit polls were predicting. What it means for them is it gives them this momentum going into the second round. This French system means that you have to, it's done by constituency by constituency. So anybody who gets more than 50% in the first round wins that constituency. But that's rare in France. So it means the top 2 or 3 candidates go through to the next round. The National Rally will be pleased to be at the top of that list. Now the jockeying goes on this week. The first round results are not always an indication of how it'll turn out in the second. We're waiting for Jordan Bardella. He's the National Rally's candidate for Prime Minister. An overall majority. He said he'll only take the Prime Minister's job if he wins an overall majority. This 28-year-old man with no previous experience in government has been put forward by Marine Le Pen as her preferred candidate for Prime Minister. Macron would have to appoint him if the National Rally wins this overall majority next Sunday in the runoff votes. He will be here shortly, we expect, to tell us what they think of the results.
All right, thank you, Bernard Smith. That's Bernard Smith reporting from Paris. I'm sure we'll speak to you in a moment. But for now, let's cross to Jonah Hull, who is also in Paris at the Place de République. Jonah, what does this result mean for Macron? Of course, it's still early days, but this doesn't indicate a particularly favourable situation.
I think let's go back to the context and premise of this election. Emmanuel Macron called this snap election, taking everyone by surprise 3 weeks ago in the immediate aftermath of a major defeat that he and his centrist alliance suffered in European parliamentary elections this month. Falling second to the national rally of Marine Le Pen, who won twice the number of votes that he did. The essential question that he put to the electorate, he was calling their bluff. He was seeking to catch his opponents off guard. He wanted to say to them, tell us, do you really want a far-right government, or was that simply a protest vote? And his calculation relied on the fact that a divided, disparate left would send their votes his way towards his centrists to form a barrage against the far right. But instead of that, the left united. They're about to hold a rally here later tonight. They have come in second place. And as you say, it is not a good result for Emmanuel Macron. Worth noting that it could have been worse. His position in the polls suggested that his centrist alliance was going to come in even worse, having lost their share of the vote in the days running up to this election as the National Rally's figure was going higher. The second thing I think to extrapolate from in these results for Emmanuel Macron is that whilst it's too early to project final results at the end of the second round, unless the centrists are able to dramatically improve their position, it seems highly likely that he will see out his term as president until 2027 without a government led by a prime minister of his choosing. He will have to go into what the French call cohabitation, in which the executive is led by one party and the legislature is led by an opposing party. The big question right now is who, because on the strength of these results, the National Rally coming first, the Left Alliance not far behind them, potentially there is a way for either of those parties to end up in government.
And Jonah, what you're describing sounds like, in the long term, a politically challenging situation. What about in the short term? What happens next?
Well, President Macron has said he will call a meeting immediately on Monday to discuss the way ahead. There will be a furious week of horse trading now among the parties, particularly the centrists and the left. Candidates in the first round who scored less than 12.5% will simply fall away now. The higher scoring candidates will move forward. The huge turnout, the highest in 40 years, suggests there will be more candidates who will pass the threshold, which potentially suggests more scope for horse trading, in terms of which those parties would seek to push candidates out, step aside for other candidates who perhaps have a better chance of seeing off the far right and preparing then for the second round.
All right, Jonah, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but we are going to break programming because we are now seeing Marine Le Pen speaking at that National Rally headquarters. Let's hear what she's got to say.
It was a clear vote. They have clearly said they want to turn the page after this current power that did not do them justice. We welcome this first results as choosing us as an alternative. Thank you for the trust that you placed in us. I have a thought for the Pas-de-Calais voters who honored us tonight. Nothing has been won yet. The second the second round will be decisive and will have either give us the choice or give the choice to the NUPES party from the left, which is anti-Republican and anti-Semitic, and the different political formations that will put Jean-Luc Mélenchon as the prime minister. We should be determined to give Jordan Bardella an absolute majority at the Assembly so that we can launch, as of next week, the reform of France and also the restoration of the unity and the national unity. there is nothing normal than the political alternative. In order to start this alternative and in order to conduct all the reforms that the state needs, we need an absolute majority so that Bardella can be the prime minister in a few days by President Macron. Without a clear majority, there will be some old political parties and some maneuvers that will try to make us fail and fail to implement all the reforms that are much needed. Dear fellow citizens, please renew your vote in the second round. If you made another choice, I call you to vote on Sunday to join the rally of security and unity. On Sunday, if you vote for the national rally, you will make sure that the country will be united again, so that we will be only one. In the coming days, be sure to stay away of those who are threatening the country and will only make a system that is failing long last and longer. No French citizen will lose their rights. On the contrary, all the rights will be guaranteed. And once the situation allows us, there will be new rights for every one of us. Dear fellow citizens, today will renew the hope. And July 7, please be mobilized so that the people will win. Long life to the Republic, long life to France.
Make sure to subscribe to our channel to get the latest news from Al Jazeera.